If your operating model, meaning how your company is structured, how decisions flow, who owns what doesn't align with your sustainability strategy, then execution becomes messy very quickly. You'll see duplicated initiatives and sustainability slowly becoming something that exists but doesn't drive change. This is why you need structure, and that structure is what we call the target operating model. This is where the rubber meets the road, and we address a critical question. How do we actually do all of this? Think of the TOM as the essential blueprint that connects your well-defined sustainability strategy to the day-to-day operations and activities of your organization. It's the map that tells everyone who does what, how decisions are made, and how performance is tracked. The significance of a robust TOM cannot be overstated. We often see fantastic strategies developed, yet they falter during implementation. Why? Because the existing operating model, the inherited way of working, doesn't align with the new strategic direction. As this principle here emphasizes, this misalignment creates an implementation gap where good intentions and ambitious goals go to die. Our goal today is to equip you with the knowledge to build a TOM that bridges that gap. When we talk about a sustainable target operating model, everything really comes down to these three pillars: governance and decision-making, roles and responsibilities, performance and tracking. Let's start with governance and decision-making. This is about authority. Who approves sustainability targets? Is it the board, executive management, a committee? Who owns execution? Is it a central ESG team, business units, both? And most importantly, who resolves trade-offs? Because sustainability is full of trade-offs: cost versus carbon, speed versus compliance, growth versus risk. If there isn't a clear escalation and approval structure, decisions stall. Governance defines how decisions flow across levels. It determines whether sustainability is embedded in power structures or sitting on the sidelines. Continuing our discussion on governance, the key here is not to invent a completely new organizational chart for sustainability that exists parallel to your core business structure. Instead, it's about thoughtfully integrating sustainability governance into your existing corporate structures. Instead of sustainability living in isolated initiatives, the TOM embeds it into day-to-day operations through clear governance and cross-department integration. In practice, this means every function understands its role, accountability is transparent, and progress is managed through consistent processes. All right, now that we understand why governance matters, let's look at the different models organizations typically use to structure sustainability decision-making. The first is the executive sponsorship model. This is where one senior leader, often the CEO, CFO, or COO, becomes the visible champion of sustainability. They set the tone from the top and drive directives downward into the organization. This model is powerful, especially at the beginning of a transformation. When sustainability is clearly tied to executive priorities, it gains credibility fast. Budgets move more easily, decisions get made faster, people take it seriously. But there's a trade-off. If too much depends on one person, you risk creating bottlenecks. If that executive becomes overloaded, shifts priorities, or leaves the organization, momentum can slow down dramatically. So while it's strong for kickstarting change, it needs structural reinforcement over time. The second model is the centralized center of excellence, often called a COE. Here, you have a dedicated sustainability team or department that owns the strategy, develops frameworks, guides implementation, and monitors performance across the business. This model builds deep expertise. It creates consistency in reporting, KPIs, and alignment with external frameworks. It's particularly effective in complex organizations where regulatory alignment and data integrity are critical. However, there's a risk. If the sustainability team becomes too centralized, it can feel disconnected from day-to-day operations. Business units may see sustainability as their project, not our responsibility. So integration mechanisms become crucial. The third model is the steering committee model, and this is one of the most common and often most effective approaches. Instead of concentrating responsibility in one person or one department, you create a cross-functional group of senior leaders. Typically, this includes operations, finance, supply chain, HR, and sometimes marketing. This group doesn't execute everything themselves. Their role is to guide, oversee, allocate resources, and remove barriers. What makes this model powerful is that it balances centralized oversight with decentralized execution. Strategy is aligned at the top, but accountability is distributed. Finally, we have the federated or decentralized model. In this structure, sustainability responsibilities are largely embedded within business units or functions. The central team is smaller and acts more as a coordinator or standard setter rather than the main driver. One of the most effective ways to structure sustainability governance is through a centralized center of excellence combined with a steering committee model. This approach gives the organization both clarity and coordination. You have a small dedicated sustainability team at the center. Their role is not to execute everything themselves, but to provide strategic oversight and methodological consistency. They define the overarching sustainability vision. They develop policies, they establish KPIs, they ensure compliance with regulatory requirements and voluntary standards. This centralized team becomes the anchor. They safeguard consistency in data, reporting, and risk management. They also ensure that sustainability decisions are not fragmented across departments. An alternative way to ensure sustainability actually reaches the ground is through a decentralized network of sustainability champions. What makes this model strong is that it aligns with how a target operating model should evolve. Instead of building an entirely separate sustainability structure, you focus on upskilling existing teams and embedding competencies within current functions. The Center of Excellence supports and guides, but operational ownership remains within the business. Now let's look at the governance layers within this structure. At the top, you have the shareholders and the board of directors. They provide ultimate oversight and strategic direction. Sustainability at this level is directly tied to long-term value creation and fiduciary accountability. ESG risks and performance are part of enterprise-level decision-making. Below them sit the board committees, which may include an ESG committee or embed sustainability. Within audit, nomination, or remuneration committees, these bodies oversee ESG-related risks, disclosures, executive incentives, and leadership accountability. This is where sustainability becomes formally monitored and linked to governance mechanisms like compensation. Then you move to executive management. Their responsibility is translation. They convert board ambition into strategy, policies, targets, and operational priorities. They allocate resources and integrate ESG into budgeting, risk management, and performance systems. Finally, at the operational level, you have the business functions and organizational units. This is where sustainability is implemented daily. Data is collected, KPIs are tracked, environmental, social, and governance initiatives are executed within operations, supply chain, HR, finance, and procurement. What this structure achieves is vertical alignment, oversight at the top, strategic translation in the middle, operational ownership at the base, and at the center, a dedicated team ensuring coherence, consistency, and momentum across the system. The next step involves deciding on the optimal organizational placement for your sustainability functions, and critically, aligning incentive structures. Do you need a dedicated, centralized center of excellence, COE, for sustainability, providing expert guidance and strategic oversight? Or is a more decentralized approach, empowering sustainability champions within each business unit, more appropriate? Most organizations find a hybrid model to be the most effective. A small, strategic, central team that sets direction and provides expertise, supported by a network of embedded sustainability champions within operational departments. Your role as an internal sustainability champion is absolutely vital here. Are you expected to be a full-time sustainability expert within your unit or a part-time advocate who facilitates change and reports back to a central team? Clarifying this formal role for your network is paramount. Beyond structure, incentive alignment is a non-negotiable component of a successful TOM. If sustainability targets are not reflected in performance reviews, bonus structures, or career progression, they will remain secondary to other business objectives. For example, if reducing packaging waste is a key KPI, then an operations manager's performance review should explicitly include their contribution to that target. This ensures that sustainability becomes a core part of how people are evaluated and rewarded, fostering genuine buy-in and driving behavioral change throughout the organization. This also directly addresses the immediate resource allocation challenges. Sometimes it's not about new hires, but about making sustainability a priority for existing talent through clear expectations and rewards. It is non-negotiable for sustainability goals to be explicitly linked to individual and team performance, ensuring genuine buy-in and driving behavioral change throughout the organization. This linkage must extend across performance reviews, various structures, and career progression pathways. Performance reviews, sustainability KPIs must be integrated into annual performance appraisals for all relevant employees. For instance, if reducing packaging waste is a key organizational KPI, an operations manager's performance review should explicitly evaluate their contribution to this target, including initiatives taken, results achieved, and any challenges encountered. Similarly, a procurement manager's review could assess progress on sustainable sourcing criteria, or an R&D team's review might include targets for designing recyclable products. This formalizes accountability and makes sustainability an integral part of individual success.